Today we're talking about 5 weird hobbies of the INFJ that we keep hidden. There are some aspects of us that are so near and dear to our heart, things that we love to do, things that bring us joy, but they seem to only bring joy to us. If we look left and right, people are not doing these things at all. And even if we've tried to tell people about them, there's always this reaction of, are you really doing that? Well, that's at least what we've experienced since childhood on. So we have learned early on to actually keep those hobbies hidden. If we should hide them is another question, but the fact is that we do. So today we're talking about 5 hobbies INFJs love to do, but that we keep hidden from the rest of the world. Before we get started, I want to remind you the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp has launched. You can join until tomorrow, November 11th, because that's when we have our first live call. We won't have any late admissions, so join our amazing community of INFJs creating their INFJ Epic lives. Everything you need to know you can find in the link in the description. I really hope to see you there. Hobby number 1, the INFJ loves to analyze people. So we do this not only with people that we meet in real life, we actually do this with people we see online. So often we watch interviews, we look at how other people talk about that person. We really take interest in analyzing people and understanding them. It's not even so much about this particular person, it's the fact that we can actually hone our skills. We're so good at reading people. We're so good at understanding them. We're so good at closing the gap. And what we're also good at is, looking into a black space where there isn't much information and then getting some kind of structure into it. And we mostly love doing this with other people. INTJs will probably rather like doing this with certain strategies or certain scenarios. We love understanding people. And so this is something that we do, on a daily basis. We're not even aware of it most of the time, but it's something that we love to do. And maybe you've been in that situation where you say, oh, this one basketball player, well, he always acts like this and this in interviews. And then people are asking you, you don't even watch basketball. What is that all about? You don't know that person. Well, I've watched a lot of interviews. Well, I, read this and that. So it's not just so much about gossip or anything like this. It's the fact that we like to understand. It's something that we're already good at. And if we're given the opportunity, we want to learn about that person as much as possible. It gives us an opportunity not only to understand this particular person, but to understand the human experience in itself. It's something that we love to do. It's something that we do on a subconscious and conscious level all day, every day. We are not even aware of that we're doing it, but it's one of those things that really bring us joy and that we can't really let go of. Hobby number 2. We love observing other people experiencing their hobbies. So one of the things that INFJs are really good at is experience things through other people. We're great at absorbing other people's emotions. We're great at absorbing other people's, worlds. It's, again, one of those things that bring us immense joy. We just have to be careful how we do that. We have to be careful that we don't overdo it so we're not experiencing our own life. That's one of the challenges here, but it's still something that we love to do, because what happens in our mind is we see a person, they're experiencing their world, for example, through their music, their way of seeing the world. And we can put ourselves into their world, sort of. We absorb them, we absorb their environment, and through that, we have an experience. That experience in itself, makes something happen in our mind. It brings us joy, it brings us excitement, it makes our life more full. And again, it's not just about understanding people, right? We talked about that. The understanding part is very logical. The second hobby about observing people, about observing how they experience their hobbies, has everything to do with an emotional state that we're pulling into our world. We're really being there and experiencing something that we feel we couldn't really create on our own. And so this is something that we love to do. One little side note here is that we as INFJs have to make a choice at one point. How much of myself am I going to hollow out in order to make that happen? Because I can tell you one thing for sure. The more you choose yourself, the more you start building yourself up, the more you start, filling your own space with things you like and creating hobbies on your terms and making all of that happen, the less you're going to be able to analyze people, the less you're going to be able to absorb their emotional states. It really is a payoff here. We have to just understand, at some moment I can do those things, but not at the expense of me actually experiencing myself. Hobby number 3 is emphasizing and reliving memories. So maybe you've had a situation in your life that has had an impact on you. There was something specific about it that makes you go back over and over again. And every single time you think about it, it gets more exciting. We literally get a payoff out of that. So what we tend to do is to look at that situation and make it better than it actually was. Once we experienced that situation, it was kind of cool. It was okay. But now, 4 weeks later, after we've thought about it 100 times, it's this much bigger. It's that much more exciting because we're able to actually put emotions to those experiences. This is something that happens completely on our own. It is something that's totally normal to us, but it's not something we would share with other people. It's not something that, is something we would tell others because there's no way people would understand this. INFJs do this, like even to a point where they say, oh, I'd rather stay at home, listen to a song that reminds me of that situation. I'm going to go even deeper. I'm going to experience this even more because creating those emotions in my life while emphasizing, while remembering a situation feels better than anything I could experience in the real world. And that is, of course, something that we keep hidden from other people because how in the world would they understand this? How can this be healthy? But the thing is this, everything in moderation is healthy. If this is something that makes you excited, if this is something that makes you feel good, do it. Like, why not? Like, if we're able to create amazing emotions on our own, let's do it. If we can do this just by thinking about something, just about remembering something, why not? Every single time you get a dopamine hit, that's a good thing. The challenge here is that we don't go overboard because those are the moments when we dissociate from reality. If the story play out in our head feels so much better than real life, we're just not going to engage in real life. And I would be the first one to say, so what? That is something that I felt throughout my 20s or, my teens all the time. I was like, why do I have to engage in the real world? I can do whatever is just necessary to keep my head above water and experience all those amazing things just in my head. The problem is it's not enough. I've tried it. I've, worked with thousands of INFJs. It just isn't enough. We want this to be reality. We want more of that. And that experience is finite. We cannot do more than what we're already experiencing. So if we want more of that experience, we will try to make it happen in the real world. And it just doesn't work. We have to understand that this is in our mind, this feels good, but it's something that we created. It wasn't that great to begin with. The thing that makes the situation great is you. Your ability to think it through, your ability to add those emotions and those great experiences. It's not what really happened, but also to look at it from the perspective of if I'm able to create such great emotions in my mind, I'm able to create such great emotions with other things as well. So I have to start tapping into the real world because it just isn't enough to live in our head alone. The only reason why I would say that is because it doesn't satisfy us enough. We feel disconnected. We feel like something is missing. And that's why we need to tap into the real world and make things happen, right? That's what we talk about in bootcamp mainly, is how to make the steps happen that are important to us so we can keep playing that game in our mind. So we have new information. So we keep growing. So there's always more to dream about, to feel about, and to experience. Hobby number 5 is minimizing and optimizing processes. So we as INFJs, we have a finite amount of energy. Okay, everybody has a finite amount of energy, but our energy, our physical energy, is probably less than most people, right? We're not the kinds of people who are always going, right? We're more cerebral beings. We are rather in our head than in the real world. We're not engaging in everything possible because it would just exhaust us. And so what we learn early on is how to get things done in the least amount of work possible, in the least difficult way possible. It has also a lot to do with the fact that we are great at creating systems and clear systems that, not only make sense in this one situation, but we could apply them in other situations as well. That's how our mind works. Yes, we are feelers, right? We talk about this all the time, but INFJs, when it comes to their introverted functions, they're all logic. We have this vast space and we have our internal logic, and we take in information and we create a system out of it. So every single thing that, excites us, that we want to take advantage of, that we want to be a part of, we always think about, how can I optimize this process? How can I get everything that I want out of the situation with the least amount of work possible or necessary to make it happen? How can I minimize the process? How can I optimize it? And it really is a hobby. It is really something that we do all the time, every single day. We love doing this, and people don't understand it. They don't understand how we can live our life as minimalists in so many areas, right? It doesn't have to be something that is obvious, but in a lot of ways, we are minimalists. We don't do everything that is possible. We do as little as possible in the areas that make the most sense to us, that we love to do, and that excite us. And that's when we go all out, right? So we narrow it down so we can go broad again. Hobby number 5 is rebelling within a social norm. So there are people who are rebellious to begin with. Like, you can't even put them in any box. They're always different. There's always something about them that, makes them not fit in. INFJs do something very particular. We understand the social norm. Like, if you want it or not, if you want to be part of a social norm or not, if you want to be part of like this social game or not, we understand it. If we take our time, we understand how it works. We know how social hierarchy works. We know why certain people get popular. We understand why certain people really succeed in life. Like, we just get it. We get it because that's how our mind works. We love to analyze people. We love to go into their worlds. We understand this entire process. But we not only understand it, we also don't want to be part of it. Like, that's a huge thing. There's so many people who understand the system and can play the system because they want to be part of it. They want to win at that system. That's just not how our mind works. It's something that happens outside. We understand what's going on, but we just don't want to play that game. It doesn't give us a payout. Doesn't give us something that makes us feel good to be part of it, because it feels like I'm just pretending. I don't want to be in that system. And so because of that, we always lean into situations that make us rebel within that social norm. So this is something that actually gives us a psychological payout. We understand it and we do something that still makes us win within the social norm while not really being a part of it. So we rebel within that system. We make it work while being in a situation where we say, I understand this, I don't need to be part of it, and I'm still winning. And other people might look at me and say, oh, that person is winning, but I don't really care. I'm just rebelling here because that's what I like to do. That's what makes me feel alive. And more than that, this is what makes me me. This is what shows the world how I see the world, because that's what we want in the end of the day, right? For people to connect with us in a way where we feel like I'm being myself, in a way that I want to see myself, in a way that makes me proud of me, in a way that makes me excited about my life, and then people seeing that. Of course, everybody will see you through their lens. Of course, nobody's going to understand you completely because they're not you. But that being said, we still understand the social norm, and we also want to rebel against it because it just isn't us. It's a form of self-expression to be in a way of, I understand what's going on, and that's just not me. This form of self-expression is a hobby, like people showing who they are through fashion, other people showing who they are through, how they express their political views, whatever it may be. It's part of their identity. It's part of what they believe in. It's part of who they are. And part of who we are is to be that rebellious nature that understands what's going on, but isn't part of it. That's who we are, and that's how we show up in the real world. Remember, if you want to learn more how to make that process happening, how to live out your INFJ epic life, and to really build that momentum that feels natural, where you don't need discipline all the time, but it's just part of your identity, then join our amazing community in the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp. Our first live call is tomorrow, so make sure to join before then. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on the 5 biggest secrets of the INFJ.